For your final test of the year in Advanced Algebra 10, you'll have two different parts to it. We will be starting it tomorrow. And the first part of it you will have, there will be no notes allowed on it. And the things that you'll have to do will be to write equations in standard form, given a graph or given some information. You will also have to sketch the graph and find key features of particular conic section, and they'll be given to you in standard form. And then you'll also have to name the type of figure that you're looking at. For the graphing calculator part, you may use a 3x5 note card for that part, which will be taken on Thursday, I do believe, or Friday, depending on what hour you're in. And so the things you'll have to do there is write equations in standard form, given a graph, given information, given the general form, where you have to complete the square. You'll also have to sketch the graph and find key features given the things in standard form and in general form. And you'll have some questions involving a circle and a parabola. And then you'll have some questions from previous material. Particularly evaluating functions, just want to make sure you remember how to do that. Excuse me. This test will cover 2 days worth of information. And so we're just going to go through some things, and all of the different examples will be things that you could see on both parts of the test. So moving on to our first equation here, where we have to sketch the graph of it. First thing you should always try to identify is what figure you're trying to draw. In this case, it is a circle. And it is a circle because these numbers on the bottom are the same, and we have a plus sign. So then once you know what the figure is, you should find the center or the vertex, depending on what figure you have. And in this case, the center is going to be a -2, -3. And so we go left 2 and down 3, and there is our center for our circle. And then the only other part we need would be the radius, which would be that, square root of it, so 3. Now, had you said this was an ellipse, then you would be doing the ABC thing, and you would find that A is 3, B is 3, and C is 0. Same thing. And so then 1, 2, 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3 up, 1, 2, 3 to the left, and 1, 2, 3 down, and then you have to draw your circle. Of course, you should be able to make it look as fine as that one when you put it on your graph paper, or something similar. And so there you have it. Second one. Do the same thing, sketch the graph of it. Before we can sketch the graph, though, we better figure out what we're looking at here. Since it's both two terms are squared and we have subtraction in between, we are talking about a hyperbola. And so now we're going to have to complete the square and group things. So we have 4x squared plus 16x minus y squared plus 6y equals 3. Here we have to divide a 4 out to get x squared plus 4x. And then we take a -1 out to get y squared minus 6y equals 3. And the reason we have to do that is because we have to get the squared term to be by itself with nothing. This negative is associated with the y squared, so we have to get rid of it. Now then, we complete the square. And so this would be 4 times x plus 2 squared, because you take half of that thing. So what we had to do is add 4 in order for us to complete the square, and then 4 times 4 is 16, and that is the number we brought into the problem. On this one, then we have minus 1 times y minus 3 squared. Again, it's half of that one. 3 squared is 9, and that's what we had to add to it. But now we have to take a -1 times 9, so minus 9. So now we have 10. Then to get it by itself, we have to divide each thing by 10. And so now we have an equation that would be x plus 2 squared over 5 halves, because 4/10 is the same as 2/5. And then when we bring it all, multiplying by 2/5 is the same as dividing by 5 halves, so that's why we put it over 5 halves, minus, and then y minus 3 squared over 10 equals 1. So now we can try to sketch this thing, and we should find A and B and C in this case. And the value of A is the square root of 5 halves, plus and minus, of course. The value of B is the square root of 10, and the value of C is the square root of 5 halves plus 10. So then, on our graph, we have a center point at -2, 3. Vertices are plus and minus the square root of 5 halves away from it, and then they're on the x directions. So somewhere in here and there. And then B value is the square root of 10, so that means you'd go up and down the square root of 10 and you'd get your box. The square root of 10 is like 3 point something, so like there and there. And then that helps you find your asymptotes, like so. And now you can draw the hyperbolas, which come like so. And the focus points, they're going to be out here. And so there you have it. Next one. We have x squared minus 8x plus 24y plus 16 equals 0. So we are looking at a parabola. So we want to keep the x stuff on one side because that's the part that's squared, and move that to the other side. And so we have an equation that is going to be x squared equals 4py. So that means we're either that or that for a parabola. So now completing the square, it's going to be x minus 4, because that's half of 8. Did not have to do anything out here first because it's already by itself. And so what you have to add in here is 16 in order for you to complete the square. And so then we have to add 16 to this side as well. And so then that's going to equal a negative 24y. And so now our vertex is at a negative 4, 0. And 4p equals a negative 24, so p is equal to a negative 6. And so then sketching this graph, negative 4, 0. P is a negative 6, so that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the focus, and 1, 2, 6 is the directrix line. Hold it. Made a mistake. Back it up. This should be plus 4 because you take the opposite of what's with the x. I'm so sorry. So now we have to take this and move this line over there. There we go. Maybe we can even move this axis that way some. Oh, there we go. That's looking better. And so then your parabola is going to go like that. Now we can figure out some things. If we substitute a 0 in for x, you would get 0 minus 4, which is a negative 4, and a negative 4 squared is 16 equals a negative 24y. So then y equals a negative 16 over 24. And 16 over 24, 8 goes into those, so it's a negative 2/3. So it should be like there then. That point is 0, negative 2/3, which then makes there's another coordinate out here that would be 8 comma negative 2/3. And there you have it. All right. Now we're looking at another one, and here they just give us an equation. And this one, since it's a subtraction sign and both things are squared, is a hyperbola. Problem saying it and spelling it today. All right, so we have A, B, and C. A is the value of 3, because it's a larger number, because remember that's a negative 16. B is 4. C then is 5, because 9 plus 16 is 25, and the square root of that is 5. And then we have a center that is located at negative 5, 2. Opposite of this for x, opposite of that for y. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Center is there. A is 3, and it's underneath y, so therefore 1, 2, 3 up, and 1, 2, 3 down. B is 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4 that way, and 1, 2, 3, 4 that way would help us get this square, actually a rectangle. And the slopes of our asymptotes would be plus and minus 3/4. So that's this line and this line. And then there's our focus, and there's our focus. And then our hyperbola does that. And that. All right, moving on to the next one. Well, would you look at that? We have another hyperbola. A is 5, B is 6, C is the square root of 61, because you add those two together. And our center is at 3, 4. A is 5, and A is underneath X, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, and 5 to the left. B is 6, so that means we would go down 6, and up 6, and that creates our rectangle, so we can make our asymptotes. And the slopes of the asymptotes are plus and minus 6/5, because you take the y part over the x part, always, because your slope is always changing y over changing x. And then our focus points are the square root of 61 away from our center, and the square root of 61 is somewhere between 8 and 9. No, 7 and 8. Because 7 squared is 49 and 8 squared is 64. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So somewhere right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Somewhere right there. And then our hyperbola does that. Ooh, that was kind of bad. You, of course, will draw them better than that. All right, moving on to the next one. Here we have a squared term and a squared term, so it's either a circle or an ellipse, and because the numbers are different there, we have not a circle. Yes, we have an ellipse. That's the word I wanted to spell. So again, we have to group. So x squared minus 2x plus 4y squared equals 3. Now then, completing the square here would be x minus 1 squared. And what you had to add is a 1 there, and so we got to add 1 over here. Yeah, that's not 1. Let's try that again. Add 1. This one we don't have to do anything because there's nothing to complete, so it's just 4y squared, and that equals 4. Then to get it by itself, divide by 4, and you get 1. And you have x minus 1 squared over 4 plus y squared over 1 equals 1. So then in our ellipse, our center is at 1, 0. The value of A is equal to 2. The value of B is equal to 1. And the value of C is equal to the square root of 3. So there you go. Now we can figure out where everything goes. Since we are at 2 for A, and it's underneath X, we have to go 2 to the right and 2 to the left. B is 1. It's underneath Y, so we're going 1 up and 1 down. And C is the square root of 3, so that's somewhere 1 point something away. And then our ellipse does that. Next one here, we have, if we divide this by 225, you get 1, and then you would have x squared over 9 plus y squared over 25, and we are looking at another ellipse. And so A is 5, B is 3, C is 4, because you take that minus that. Center is going to be at 0, 0 because there's nothing with the x and the y. A is 5 and it's underneath the y, so we're going to go up 5 and down 5. B is 3, so we're going to go left 3 and right 3. And C is 4, so we're going to go up 4 and down 4 for our focus points. And so then we will have that for our ellipse. Wow, I did pretty good with that one. Hopefully you can be as talented as that. All right, so moving on. So we're given these things. We have a parabola vertex at 3, -6, and a focus at 3, -4. And it's a parabola. And so the parabola must be doing this, because there's a vertex And so it is got to be x squared equals something y. And since our center is at 3, -6, then it would be x minus 3 and y plus 6. And the value of p is a positive 2 because p is the distance from vertex to focus. So then it would be 8, because remember your equation is x squared equals 4py. And if p is 2, 4 times 2 is 8. And so there's our equation. All right, now we have vertices at 9, -2, -2, and a -1, -2. And co-vertices at 4, -5, and 4, 1. So now if we connect those, and we connect these, the center is right there, which is at 4, -2. And it is an ellipse, so we have a plus sign in between to equal 1. And up here we're going to have x minus 4 squared and y plus 2 squared. The value of a would be the distance from here to there or there to there, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then 25 would go underneath, and the value of b is the distance from here to there, which is 1, 2, 3, so 9 would go there. And there's your equation. Another one that's a parabola. 2, -5 is our vertex. Focus is at a -3, -5. And so our parabola is going like that. And so it's a left and right one, so that's got to be y is squared equals something x. And since our center is at 2, -5, x minus 2 will be in the equation, and y plus 5. Then the value of p is this distance here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So p equals 5, but it's to the left, so it's a -5. So we'd have a -20 for our value because it's 4p x equals y squared. And so here's the equation. Next problem we have here is a circle with a center -2, -8. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's our center. And it passes through a -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is one massive circle. Center is there, and it's going to look like that. Can't even draw it here. But you really don't need to because you know the center, so that's going to be x plus 2 squared plus y plus 8 squared equals, and what's the radius? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 13 squared is 169. Because r equals 13. Now, if you would have written it with 169 here and a 169 there, and then just used 1 on that side, that would have been okay as well. Same thing. All right, so now we have these questions. It says a boat is 10 miles south and 30 miles west of a ship. So here's the ship at that point. A boat is 10 miles south and 30 miles that way. Both are anchored. The boat has a radio range of 32 miles. Can it send a message to the ship? Well, here's the boat. Well, let's see. Its range is 32, so that would be like that distance right there, which is a circle, because that's all the bigger it can be. And so you're going like that. Well, now maybe that point is there. Maybe it's a little bit up here. Or maybe it's inside of there. Let's see, down there. So we got to figure that out. So we have to figure out, what is this distance? If that's 10 and that's 30. Well, there you have the distance formula, which is the square root of 10 squared plus 30 squared. And 10 squared is 100, plus 30 squared is 900, and the square root, and d will equal the square root of 1,000, and the square root of 1,000 is, the distance is 31.662 miles, is how far apart they are. And if the range of the radio is 32 miles, they can talk to each other. Yes. And then you would have to write some really cool thing after that. Yes, they can send a message because their distance, they are only 31.6 miles away from the boat. The ship is. Something like that. All right, so now we have this one. A cross-section of a television antenna dish is a parabola. Like that. The receiver is located at the focus up here. And that distance right there is 8 above the vertex. And we will call this point 0, 0, which means there's an axis and there's an axis. Find an equation for the cross-section of the parabolic dish. Well then, let's see, since it's opening up, that would be x squared equals 4py. And since we're at 0, 0, we don't need anything with the x and y. All we have to do is figure out the value of p, which p is 8, since that is the distance to the focus. And so we would have x squared equals 4 times 8 times y. So x squared equals 32y. Finally then, how deep is the dish if it is 15 feet wide? Well, that means from here to there it is 15. Well, then this point right here is in the middle, making that only 7.5. And so our x value is 7.5 squared equals 32y. And then you would divide by 32. And y will equal 1.7578. So the dish is 1.7578 feet tall, or deep. And there you have that. All right. Finally, you have this. Solving these things, f plus g of 3. So if we're going to add these things together, we would want to find f of 3 first. And f of 3 would be 3 squared plus 3 times 3 minus 1, which is 9 plus 9 is 17, because you got to subtract 1. G of 3 is 5 times 3 minus 3, so 15, which is 12. And then f plus g of 3 would be 17 plus 12, which is 29. And there you have it. Now this one over here, g composition f of 2. So first you have to figure out what f of 2 is equal to. And that would be 2 squared plus 3 times 2 minus 1. And let's see, that's 4 plus 6 minus 1, which is 9. And then you will take the 9 and substitute it into the g function. So then you will have g of 9 is equal to 5 times 9 minus 3, and 45 minus 3 is 42. And there's your answer. Now then, finding the inverse of g, you would have to say x equals 5y minus 3, because you switched the x and y in order to find the inverse. Solve for y by adding 3. X plus 3 equals 5y, and then divide by 5, and you would get y equals 1/5 x plus 3/5. And lastly, finding all the roots of h of x, that thing. Let's see, what is that? We've got 45, so the factors of 45 are 1, 3, 5, 9, 15, 45, plus and minus all of those. And so then doing our L thing, we would have 1, 3, negative 15, and a negative 45. And then we have to try values, and let's see, we are going to try negative 3 first. So 1, negative 3, 0, 0, negative 15, 45, 0. Hey, we found a root. And then we are left with x squared minus 15. And now to solve that, you can just set it equal to 0. If there was something in here, then you could use the quadratic formula. This one, all we have to do is solve, so x squared equals 15, and then x equals plus and minus the square root of 15. So the three roots are negative 3, square root of 15, negative square root of 15. And there's your review for this final test of the year.